Welcome in, Bleav in Commanders podcast, part of the Bleav Network. We are brought to you by FanDuel. Scott Jackson, Anthony Armstrong with you here. Please comment, like, and follow us if you could. And draft weekend is over, Anthony. Hopefully you had a good, restful weekend. And, well, let's get to it. What do we think about the Commanders draft? I mean, we got a chance to talk about Sonny Styles, but after that, obviously, hit a lot of need areas and didn't have a lot of capital and didn't make any trades. So here we go. This is what we're looking at going into the 2026 training camp.
Adam Peters came out and went straight down that list, right? They gave him a list and they checked it twice and they went and got every single thing. They didn't divert from any plan. And I'm happy with the draft, Scott. Good to see you, by the way. I didn't get to sit down and watch like every single draft. Saturday, I had a very belated and delayed birthday dinner celebration. So shout out to everybody that got to come out. But I could see at the table across from me, there was a grandma. She was like, I don't know, 80 maybe. She was having a birthday celebration, but one of her grandbabies was turned around watching the bar TV
watching the draft.
Me. Yeah, they're singing happy birthday, and he's watching the draft. I'm like, what are you getting hyped
Good for him.
Tell me when Washington picks.
Right.
But I thought the draft was good. I thought it was solid, right? Every position that we were thinking about, they went and addressed. Cornerback didn't get touched, but they did do a pretty decent amount in free agency. Meek Robertson, and they probably feel good about who they already have. So didn't want to add any other competition there. And the big thing I think is that they got some players and they checked some boxes off of the style that I was looking for. Like I'm thinking specifically Kaytron Allen. That dude runs physical. Just looking at some of his highlights. He looks like he craves that contact, and he smiles after he runs somebody over, and that's going to be good. That running back room needed that, Scott, and I'm glad that they brought him in.
Yeah, no, that was a good pick, a value pick at that time. For those of you that believe in this consensus board stuff, which is, I don't know. I mean, I hear consensus board, and I'm like, what, do all 32 teams turn in their boards? And no, they don't. Of course they don't. But, in terms of the outside perception of what the consensus boards are, apparently the Commanders were the number one value team in this 3-day process. The draft, of course, they didn't have as many picks as some of the other teams, but that's good to see. I mean, you don't want your team reaching. I guess if you were going to say there was a reach in the draft, it might have been the last pick, their last selection with the Rutgers quarterback. But overall, it was interesting. I think the one that's really going to be dissected the most, of course, is Antonio Williams, the wide receiver from Clemson. They really love him. Some of our, our pre-draft discussion was maybe getting an outside receiver, bigger guy, somebody who could kind of complement Terry McLaurin in that regard. He's more of an inside guy, although played quite a bit on the outside his previous year, not last year. Mostly was an inside guy, but that one would be interesting. And he obviously is not a bigger guy; he's a 5'11", player. So I'll be interested once you really get a feel for what you see there with him. And do you think this guy's going to be a good fit for them? And I guess, again, this just leaves that other position on the outside open, and there's still this old Brandon Ayuk thing swirling around the world. If that's where they go, or is it Treylon Burks? Is it De'Ami Brown? Or does Luke or Jalen Lane develop into that guy, assuming they're both still here in the final 53?
First and foremost, he's not small. 5'11" is not small. Thank you very much. I'm 5'11". All right, I had success in the league a little bit.
Well, he's not at her size, in other words, or Malachi Fields.
Yeah, I mean he's not the 6'5". He's not that that long strider that that's what we say. Height and speed was something that they needed. They definitely checked the box with the speed.
Sure.
Williams had a good 4.41, so that's pretty quick. Just watching some of his highlights, it was a lot of either a quick screen or a lot of work in the slot. Now here's the thing. DQ already said it's going to be a collective effort at the receiver position. So with that said, he may not finish. He may not always just line up in the slot, right? There's a lot of bunch that can happen, a lot of motion that get people in different positions. So the fact that he's a fast guy, he shows some savviness in the slot, confidence with his hands in traffic. He's going to be a good complement to what they can roll out there, right? So let's just say you assume he gets the starting position. You got Terry, you got my man Antonio getting some one-on-one coverage. Then you got Chig Okonkwo out there as well, right? So that's that can be a pretty dangerous 3. And then you still have room for a De'Ami, for a Van Jefferson, maybe a Luke McCaffrey comes back off of that collarbone and tries to hit it hard, right? So there's still options, Scott, at the receiver position. I think bringing in another body they needed to do that because obviously Terry is getting older, right? You're going to have to get somebody that you develop and who's going to know your system. But just seeing how he operates in the slot, he's going to be able to push down the field in those cover 2 zones. Is going to be, pushing pressure on the defense and give another option for Jaden. So I'm fine with it. We'll have to just go back and you have to just see how the season rolls out for everybody else that was available at that spot. You know what I mean? So I went to this point. Like, I may feel a certain way about a player, but I ultimately have to trust what they're doing. And I think that they've been building it the right way. So we'll see where his career goes, but I like what he has when the run after the catch happens.
Yeah, and then after that, of course, they did not have a pick. They had that pick. That was the 3rd round pick was Antonio Williams. So they didn't have but one pick on Friday night. Then on Saturday, they didn't get in until the 5th round because there was no 4th round picks this year. But then, of course, Joshua Josephs, the rush end from the Tennessee Volunteers, he athletically profiles like a lot of the guys, that you like with length and the things that he can do. And, of course, he was highly graded for that spot as well. It appeared that, he kind of fell to them. And I was saying to you before this draft, I would like, because we thought this edge position was pretty deep, if they didn't address it with, say, somebody falling down to them like an Arvell Reese or, David Bailey, which obviously never got close, then I figured this might be something that they could get later on day 2 or 3. And they hit it on day 3 because, again, outside of Oweh, nobody's under contract of the top 4 guys. Armstrong obviously is not. Jason just signed a 1-year deal too, so they're gonna have to fill this these spots. So I do like them investing in a young guy, developmental guy who's not necessarily going to have the pressure on like, oh, you got to do it right now, But the fact that they do go there and looks like a guy they could work with and make something into, hopefully.
Yeah, and he has his first career sack in college was on Jaden Daniels, and it was this big looping stunt from the outside all the way in, right up the middle, and then he brought him down. So. That's kind of cool to that they have that connection, but it's probably what
be the first time and last time he gets to touch the quarterback that way.
That's right. Hey, don't touch me again. All right, don't touch me again. That right there is what I envision Durante Jones wanting to run, being able to line people up in multiple positions and let them build up speed and whip and twist and get in there. So glad to have that guy, just a young talented player. Physically talented, physically gifted. Now you have to go in and see how good can you develop them. And I was thinking about the development of players because a lot of times some teams, and this is kind of going off track, but some teams seem like they always try to pick players to develop, yet they have a horrible history of keeping people there long enough to develop anybody. You know what I mean? So it's like you're perennially bad. Like you might just try to get good players and then go from there. But I think Washington has hit on a couple of spots. Who you got next that we're going to cover?
Well, Kaytron Allen, obviously you mentioned him in the open there. I mean, look, he was expected to go earlier. He was a guy who was a timeshare at Penn State in the backfield, but yet over 1,000 yards in his last 2 years. He's a big-time runner. He comes from the 7.57, of course, which has put out a lot of NFL talent down here. So that was exciting from a personal standpoint for me. And, he gives them something they don't have, right? I mean, he gives them a little bit more of a bull than some of the other guys they have, at that position right now. So I think he's somebody you could see complementing that backfield very, very nicely. And I think that's why you're excited. But again, the production matched all the athletic attributes of this player too, right?
Yeah, he is going to be that guy where it's 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. We need to get this yard. Hey, Kaytron, go knock this out for me, right? You need to hand it off to somebody. Go be your bruiser. And you got to have that attitude, man. Coming out of Norfolk VA, went through IMG, so he probably got coached by good old Mike Sellers, So long-time Washington Redskin Mike Sellers was probably had a hand on teaching that guy a little bit. But like I said earlier, I saw some of his clips and the highlights that the fans put together and roll out there. Number one, he was rocking 13, so I got to give him some love for that. Got to give him a little love for that. But number two, the way that he drops his shoulder, and it makes me think of that Brandon Jacobs versus LaRon Landry clip. He's always behind his pads. He makes safeties pay for it. Like, you're really going to have to think about it. You know what I mean? And I can't wait. It's going to be the game this year. Obviously, Dallas and Washington are going to tee off, and it's going to be rookie versus rookie. Kaytron Allen, Caleb Downs. What's going to happen? Who's going to win that battle? And I'm going to have to put my money on Kaytron.
Well, we were, and then of course in the seventh round they had 2 picks. They hit the center right away. Matt Golban, who was a 4-year starter, spent 4 years, excuse me, at Wake Forest, at 34 starts there, between there and Michigan State, where he finished his career. Mm-hmm. So played in the Big Ten at the end of this year after starting the ACC. You know, he's a mauler. I mean, he's physical. I mean, I was watching some of his clips, and he's nasty, man. You know, and I don't know what the timeline for him is, but we talked about it. I think Allegretti's probably the starter from the jump, but now you got a depth guy in there. You can work with him, develop with him, see how he gels this line. But he looks like he's got some good starting points and places to work with in terms of the way he handles his business.
Man, Golban is, I feel like you can tell where they value experience, right? And 34 starts, I want to say, for Golban. I'm pulling up.
Excuse me, 6th round, by the way. My bad. 6th round, my bad. He was one of the 6th round picks.
6th round pick, number 209 overall, two-time honorable mention all conference. I pulled up some stats. I had said, hey, AI, help me pull some clips together, some information on these guys. Here's what I like about this. Even though it's later on, he went from one school and then went to another school. And everybody would say, hey, Big Ten ball, Michigan State, those teams that he had to go against. I like that. I like that he stepped up the people he was battling up against. Sorry, you think about the guy over there, Ohio State and McDonald. Golban went up there, he has a lot of reps, leadership, team captain. I think he's going to battle with Allegretti. You know what I mean? I think you probably give Allegretti the starting position out of the gate, but Golban may be a guy that's just so consistent and just nasty with it, where it's like eventually we got to hand the keys over to this guy. But you know, I'm looking forward to this battle. I'm glad they got somebody at that position. He was not a name that I had on my list.
And then finally, in the 7th round, Ethan Kalakamanis. I didn't say that right. Kalakamanis. There you go. It was the big quarterback from Rutgers. They'd had him in for a visit. You know, depending on who you Bleav, you know, this guy was either a reach or he was a genius pick. So we'll see. I mean, for all the people that have looked for some competition, for a younger quarterback in there to compete, to maybe move Sam Hartnett off the roster, here's your opportunity here with Ethan coming in from Rutgers. Like, let's face it, Rutgers isn't exactly been a football factory here recently. So, you know, kid who played at a school where, you know, he didn't always have all the best people around him and put up some big numbers, you know, put up some big numbers. So we'll see. They like some intangibles, obviously some physical things about him to bring him in here. You know, otherwise because on the surface, they kind of like, well, this is a guy you probably could have gotten after the draft, but maybe not. I mean, I don't know. They felt like they had to do this right away for some reason.
Starting there, the undrafted free agent side, a lot of folks, you know, a lot of people and agents will tell their players, hey, if you don't get drafted, that's actually the better route to go because you get to choose your destination. Now, Ethan coming in here, I look at this a couple of ways. Number one, kind of feel like third string quarterbacks are kind of personifications of their offensive coordinator or maybe their head coach, depending on where they're at, right? Sam Hartman, Cliff Kingsbury, you know, Sean McVay, and he had the young guy, I can't even think of the name, but he had a little feisty third string quarterback. And he even said, he reminds me of me when I was playing quarterback. And so in my instance, in my mind, Ethan is now a David Bleav disciple. This is a selection that he made. One of the stats that stood out to me is that he was the first player here it is. He had 28 completions of 20-plus yards in 2025, one behind Indiana's Fernando Mendoza. He has accuracy, pocket presence, and he was able to improve his downfield touch. What does that tell me, Scott? This offense is going to go down the field, right? This offense is going to start pushing down the field. You get a quarterback that's, you get to develop him in your system. And it's not saying he's going to go and take Jaden's job. No, Jaden is special. Jaden has all the physical tools. He's done it on the field. But now if something happens, you got a guy that you've been working and developing. So I'm excited to see him. You know, you can't sit here and knock him because Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant, right? Brock Purdy was 257 and he's been to the Super Bowl and, you know.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, we hope we never see this kid play. Let's be honest.
That part.
We hope this kid never plays outside of the preseason. I mean, because if that's the case, it's bad. Because Mariota's hurt. That means Jaden's hurt, right? I mean, you don't want to see this kid playing at all. So, yeah, I mean, look, if somebody develop, we'll see. You know, hopefully he gets better. as time goes on. But, definitely somebody to push Hartman. I mean, for that third spot right now, unless they bring in a veteran. And at this moment, it doesn't look like, they've done that. So it's going to be these young guys battling out behind Mariota and obviously Jaden being QB1.
Yeah. And, like I said, it is you always got to bring a QB in, I feel. You think about how the Patriots had it. They were sending all their backup quarterbacks all around the league to go and ruin other teams. But now, like Matt Castle, then Jimmy Garoppolo goes around the league. So it's that same type of vibe. You always want to bring in one of your own. And Ethan isn't going to take the starting job. But hey, let's see him throw that pill around. It'll be good to hear the stories about his arm strength in this offseason.
Yeah, a little camp arm, if you will, if nothing else. Yeah, and then in the free agent, we'll see the undrafted free agents that they end up bringing in. They haven't officially announced it. There's some names that are out there, but Quentin Jr. from LSU wide receivers, one of them, Jaden Bradley, another wide receiver out of UNLV. They went to Fred Davis II from Northwestern. A cornerback, UTSA running back, Robert Henry Jr., Quentin Moore is a tight end out of Washington as well. So they went and did some work there. I think they guard, I Bleav they're inviting a kicker camp too from Iowa. So they're rounding out all that stuff once they officially announce it. It'll be interesting. This will be the 9+ guys that, try to fight it out to whittle down to 53 before we get to the real thing.
Man, this is exciting. It's exciting because I've say this is the official start of the 2026 season to me, right? You were past the draft, who's going to be on your team, and now we can focus on building this thing and putting the best 53 out there. So, what positions are you looking to see some battles at? Like, do you expect to see a lot of competition? I know on the offensive side, it's the receiver position. That one's going to be a battle all the way through. They're probably going to have so many options. One's easy. Yeah. What else you got?
Well, I think that's interesting, and just really to see, like, how do they work the running backs, with rotation wise, with obviously Styles and Chanel. Where does that leave McGee, right? Now that they've brought in Styles, and kind of the ends too, like with that rotation. We were talking about before. Do they play the three big guys up front, right? Do they play, Ken Law, Payne, and one of the other D tackles, perhaps Newton, or are they putting the ends, the rush end guys as the outside linebackers, or are one of those guys down? It's going to be interesting, assuming they're playing 3-4, right, lining up, because we really don't know. And then corner wise, I think it seems like they have that set, but there might be some room for some moving guys around a little bit, whether it be you think Amos is certainly one of your outside guys. Then from there, like, is it Sanderstril or Robertson? Really true slot nickel, your nickel corner, play around with that. This back and forth as to what the best situation for Mikey Sanderstril is. Is he outside? Is he inside? Like, I feel like this is like an ongoing conversation.
Yeah, and as long as the production matches
will be, and now that they didn't really address it with anybody else, I mean, it looks to be him.
Yeah, Mikey and Amik.
Exactly. I think those are the ones on defense. Just kind of where they line up. Yeah. How do they line these guys up? And I think the running back room is interesting because, look, I mean, you draft the kid, usually you keep him, right? So that's either pushing Jerome Ford or Jeremy McNichols, who these guys love, off the roster. And then it might come down to, is Jerome Ford going to show value as a returner, as a kickoff returner, coverage guy? Same thing with McNichols. McNichols can cover. We've seen him do all that stuff, right? He can do anything. So that will be interesting too, because I think Bill's obviously safe. I think clearly Rachaad White's going to be here. Then it's just like, do you keep 3? I mean, I don't think they keep 4, but you're going to keep somebody in the practice squad, and who can you slide down there and not worry about losing? So there's a little bit of gamesmanship that has to go into like these when you start cutting down. But I mean, we're months away from that. But I think it is interesting that because this is not just some, this is a guy, right? Like, this kid has some credentials, man. I mean, and he's a bull, man. I mean, I think this guy's coming here he's here to make the roster and have a role in this football team.
Absolutely. I know David Bleav needs a sledgehammer back there, especially if they want to commit to the run more, you got to have a little bit of rotation in there, right? You got to have a little bit of rotation in there. So, so many different things that could unveil, but we're going to be able to cover it all. I mentioned it earlier, one of the position battles, it was center, but I did want to consider this. This was one thing I was thinking about. You talked about the corner position. Mine is the safety position because Durante Jones is coaching the safety. So he's taking, he's got full, responsibility obviously for the whole defense, but he's working with the safety. So I'm interested to see who grows out of that group, right? You brought in Nick Cross, you got Will Harris coming back, Jeremy Reeves, Quan Martin's kind of been in between various locations. So what that position group looks like and turns into will be interesting and important. Who ends up being that green dot? Is it going to be Sonny Styles? Is it going to be a Nick Cross? Is it going to be one of those safeties? So that's a position I think is going to be. It has to be a tone setter, I think, right? You're patrolling the skies, making sure everybody's aligned. And if somebody misses, you're the last chance. So you got to be willing to come up and strike somebody.
Yeah, and you think of the special teams guys that are back that are rotational guys like Butler, who I think they re-signed as, just an extension not too long ago. And, of course, Tyler Owens, who was one of these undrafted guys who made the team a few years ago, still trying to kind of figure out. We know he can play teams, but, where does he fit? He's athletic as hell. He's long. I'd be very fascinated to see if we see him getting a lot of playing time early in these mini camp practices and the OTAs, and kind of where they envision him kind of fitting into all this, because he's kind of he's an interesting player, I think, for them. And now obviously there's a lot of competition back there. There's a lot of numbers back there with of course Harris still here and Cross being brought in. So yeah, there is some decisions I think you're right to be made back there, and we'll see how. Durante Jones sees it all. I mean, again, going back to his initial press conference, he was the one we talked about the athleticism of some of these young players and guys that, frankly, we hadn't seen it from, just because maybe the roles they were in or the way they played last year in this other scheme. So I'm curious to kind of see what the new look looks like for as much as we can get out of it, right, in these kind of offseason practices. Yeah,
it's going to be it's tough to cover. You can only cover it on tweets and warm-up videos. Like, oh, look, he threw it into a trash can. They're going to this is what the offense looks like. It's like, oh, no, it's just a drill. That's just a drill. But I bet that they're going to throw the ball downfield. That's what I think. I think
offensively, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm willing to bet there's going to be more shots involved. Like one of those things where you're like, hey, we're coming in, we're taking 5 shots. I don't care what the defense looks like. These plays are designed for you to get downfield. And I think that was one thing that was missing last year. You have to take a haymaker from time to time just to let the defense know you're willing to do it. Like, I'm going to throw the ball downfield. You got to be ready for it. And with all of these guys that we have out here, Van, Jefferson, De'Ami Brown, now even Antonio, he's able to work in the middle. Now, there's going to be a lot of attention on Terry. So there's going to be opportunities for other guys to win their one-on-one battles. They got to get down the field. So, FanDuel, they talk about regular season props. They got young receivers props over here. So nothing for our young guy, Antonio Williams, but you can get in on maybe a Jordan Tyson over under 800.5 yards. KC Concepcion, wow. What's he going to do over under 650 yards? And up there in Philly, Mekhi Lemon, he's at that 650-yard mark as well. Those are plays over there on FanDuel. Get in on them now. It's going to be an interesting season. Oh, man, I didn't even say the top receiver, Carnell Tate, 750.5. That's his number on FanDuel, Scott. Y'all go give him a play if y'all feeling froggy, think your receiver is going to break out for your team. That's over there on FanDuel. But, hey, we're going to get out of here. There's more coming up. We're going to just figure out more things to talk about, more people to talk about it with these Commanders as we go on throughout the rest of the week. That's Scott Jackson.
A couple weeks away, I think. Schedule, buddy. I think we're going to have a schedule not too much longer down the road here, too.
That's right. I need to know when they go to London.
It's coming up.
Yeah. You're going to go to London this time.
Exactly.
I'm going to try
I would love to go to London. I was just there.
Try to get you to London.
Great
Scott.
Place.
I'm going to get you to London.
Work on it for me. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. I got you. So make sure. I know how to get you to London. If everybody will like, comment, subscribe, and say, send Scott to London. And we can maybe make this thing happen. But that's Scott. I'm Anthony. Y'all stay tuned with us. We'll be back with another episode of Bleav in Commanders, brought to you by FanDuel on the Bleav Network. Y'all peace out.